Hey, welcome to Super Social Club. I'm Jeremy and today I'm counting down my top 5 smoky scotches for the fall weather. Really like the season change and the cold weather definitely has me reaching for that peated scotch a lot more. October, one of my favorite months, especially if you're a sports fan. You have the MLB playoffs going on, football in full swing, and you have hockey and basketball just starting up. The outdoor weather for drinking by a fire pit, absolutely perfect for a nice, full body, hearty Scotch whiskey. So let's get into it. Alright, coming in at number 5 is LEDAIG 10-year-old. Now this one might be a little overlooked by a lot of Scotch drinkers. It's not the typical Islay Scotch that you're used to. This one coming from the Isle of Mull. It's the peated version of OCTOMORE, coming in at 46.3% ABV and $55 US at Total Wine. This profile, not the typical like brininess and iodine that you might get from an Islay Scotch, but this one had more coastal notes. It's very approachable, very easy to drink, and definitely a great introduction into the more heavier side of peated Scotch whiskey. Definitely one of my favorites and one that should be a part of everyone's repertoire and really good overall Scotch for sure. Alright, coming in at number 4 is the Port Charlotte heavily peated 10-year-old. This one at 50% ABV and around $70 US. This is a very nice, more complex, great vegetal, iodine, phenolic notes, but also a great balance of sweetness and fruit come in as well. It says heavily peated, but it's not crazy peated. This one is more approachable for sure, and just a really delicious, well-balanced, overall great whiskey. Before moving on to number 3, honorable mention to OCTOMORE. You know I can't have this list without at least mentioning this bottle. If you know the channel, you know how much I love OCTOMORE whiskeys, especially the 0.3 series, which is the Islay Barley. This one, not making the list because it's not readily available and the price point has gotten to where I would not be comfortable recommending it at $300-ish. It's definitely something that you need to try before you buy, I think, for first-time OCTOMORE drinkers. It's hard to take a chance on a bottle that is this expensive nowadays, but if you do, you will be rewarded with one of the most complex, most delicious, heavily peated scotches ever made, in my opinion. This one here, the 9.3, I named this my whiskey of the year back in 2018, I think. The OCTOMOREs, especially the 0.3s, they're coming in with a lot of farm notes. You get a lot of hay, mud, even like a slight manure note that sounds very off-putting, but trust me, it absolutely works amazing in these. These are some of the heaviest peated whiskeys if you just measure the phenolic content. I think before distillation, the ppm levels on these whiskeys more than anyone else doesn't necessarily translate to being smokier or more peated on the palate or on the nose, but the balance and the sweetness you get something from an OCTOMORE is absolutely insane. Definitely would recommend it to someone who is very much into peated scotch and you want to go to that next level, that next price point. You will definitely be rewarded with an OCTOMORE for sure. Alright, coming in at number 3 is my absolute favorite of the core range from ARDBEG. It's the CORRYVRECKAN, 57.1% ABV. Prices on this have gone up a little bit. You're looking at around $90 now. Before, a couple years back, you'd get this really good price at like $70 or so. Still great value in my opinion at $90. I would definitely still recommend it. Really nice, like earthy peat profile here. Nice lemon, vanilla notes. The sweetness balances out really well. And you get a lot of like meaty qualities with this. Salted meats, smoked meat. My tasting notes, if you check out my old video of I did the ARDBEG core range, I'm throwing out crazy notes on this, like tennis balls and like just rubber and like really interesting stuff that you might not think fits a profile. With the balance that this thing has is really good, and probably one of my favorite ARDBEGs. Even if you took a look at all the special releases that ARDBEG brings out, I still score this thing higher than it. It is definitely my favorite ARDBEG that you can get readily available and for a decent price. Alright, coming in at my number 2, it's the LAGAVULIN 12-year-old cask strength. Absolutely phenomenal whiskey. This is the 2017 release. Batches do vary. The new bottlings look like this. Now, price point on this. Prices have gotten elevated for sure on this bottle. Still very good. Everything I liked about the ARDBEG CORRYVRECKAN, I like about this. It's got nice balance between the saltiness, the sweet notes, that brine, that iodine, the meatiness as well. All comes through very good in this bottle. This is the 2017 release. One of my favorites for sure. Talking with my good friend Richard recently, he's tried some more of the recent ones. We still agree that this is the best batch, but the new release is getting really good scores by very reputable reviewers out there. I haven't tried the newest one yet, but you cannot go wrong with this expression. So many good stuff. Bottlings coming out of Lagavulin. The 8-year-old I really like. Of course, the 16 is a classic. That's a really good entry point for someone getting into Scotch whiskey. More of the kind of campfire smoke versus that like harsh iodine brininess. Maybe it's still a little bit in here, but not as pronounced as other ones from Islay. Absolutely fantastic stuff. This bottle is very good. If you can find an old vintage, the 2017 is definitely my recommendation. The new ones, of course, they review well, so check those out as well. But absolutely love this expression from Lagavulin. Before I get to number 1, an honorable mention to the MOINE series at Bunnahabhain. It's their peated expressions. This one is the red wine Bordeaux finish. Absolutely incredible whiskey. One of my favorite heavily peated scotches I've ever tried. Definitely, of all the MOINE stuff I've had from Bunnahabhain, this one is my favorite. The limited edition stuff, the PX, also exceptional. This one you're only going to be able to find now probably on secondary markets and on auction sites. But what a phenomenal balance between really vibrant fruit notes and that excellent peated stuff that's coming out of Bunnahabhain. If you can find a MOINE, there's a lot of good no age statement ones that are really nice. Definitely recommend trying those. And if you're lucky enough to have tried this one, you probably know what I'm talking about. I absolutely adore this whiskey. Great stuff coming from Bunnahabhain. All right, and number 1, LAPHROAIG 10-year-old cask strength. This is what I got in my glass here. This whiskey just has everything I like about super heavily peated scotches. This one is batch 007, one of the better reviewed batches. ABV varies. This one's 56.3, all pretty close. But what you get out of this is a super sweet, candy-like sweetness that balances all of these weird-ass LAPHROAIG notes that come out of this, like road, tar, asphalt. You get like Band-Aids. There's very like medicinal iodine sweetness that comes out of this whiskey. All these flavors are super well balanced, especially in this expression. LAPHROAIG, I would say, probably leading the way as far as most intense peated scotches that you can maybe get right now. You know, you're looking at a great price point around $90 in the US. I know this doesn't come into every market, Canada included, but hopefully the people at LAPHROAIG and the distributors fix that issue and bring this bottle to Canada. Absolutely great. I know a lot of people adore this whiskey. Can't find it here. If you're lucky enough to live in a market, you can get it. I mean, absolutely great value. For 90 bucks, it's not cheap, but what you're getting out of this is 100% worth it. The complexity, like I said, the balance of that sweetness goes really well with all of these notes. You get all this coastal element, you get the brininess, you get all of those weird funky things that come out of this whiskey, but the balance, super good. And definitely a heavily peated bomb of a scotch. My number 1, and I think my favorite go-to, readily available if you're in the right market, and affordable heavily Scotch whiskey. Let me know what you think of this list in the comments down below. What is a heavily peated Scotch that you would add to this list? I'd love to know your thoughts about that. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Really much appreciate this. If you want to support the show a little bit more, check out Patreon, link down below. And thanks so much for watching, guys. Have a good one.